passenger side floor more or less complete. It's time to move over to the driver's side, which is in much better condition. In fact, the front of the floor, the footwell area, is in really good nick and will hardly take any fixing at all. So the last reasonably large job to do on the floor is to remove the last repair panel from the previous repairer and see what we've got to work with underneath it. You can see it's quite a big repair panel, but there was one of similar size on the passenger side, which I'll show you later, and it was covering some fairly insignificant rust holes. So I'm hoping that there isn't much to fix under there. And looking from underneath the car, I don't think there is, but there is one little surprise waiting for us. Here's a close-up of the repair panel we need to remove. I mean, I guess it's not so bad. They did at least try and follow the contours of the original floor. You know, I'm sure they were pretty proud of the bends they put in there. They shouldn't have been, but I'm sure they were. The plan of attack is to carefully grind off all those MIG welds and see what we've got to work with underneath. I've got to go to a wedding in a couple of hours, so the clock is ticking. Just have a look at what these Muppets have done. That's right. Before welding in this piece of galvanised steel, they didn't even bother taking out the plastic drain plug. So with a fair bit of cleanup, this is where we're at. It's pretty similar to the damage that was on the other side of the car, maybe a little bit better. So I think I'm going to do it in 3 sections. I'll cut this bit out, probably do that from underneath the car. This panel's spot welded to a flange under here, so I'll drill out the spot welds on the flange and cut this section out, and then fix up a little panel here. I haven't decided whether I'll cut that out or I might try filing that to a square shape, so I can make that patch panel as small as possible. I need to hammer that out flat. That's supposed to be flat. That's obviously hit something. So yeah, all pretty simple. Unfortunately, there's a strap off the rear suspension mount here, and that's spot welded through the floor. So to repair this section like that, I'm going to have to drill out those 3 spot welds. Yeah, so when drilling out spot welds, it's pretty common that you want to keep the second panel that you're drilling into, so you don't want to drill an 8mm hole all the way through both panels. My method for success is to center punch the spot welds, go through with a little like 2 or 3mm pilot drill, usually all the way through, and then I've made up this little spot weld drill out of an old good quality drill bit. I think it was 8mm or something, and I've just ground the tip down to almost flat. Still got a little nub, a little point to keep it centered in the pilot hole that you drill first, and then the cutting edges are almost flat. They don't have the standard sort of 118 degree sort of edge on them that a normal drill bit does. And this acts sort of like an end mill, gets into the little pilot drill, centers, and then hopefully just drills away the top of the material rather than the second panel. If you do make one, I'd make it out of a good quality drill bit, because spot welds are welds and welds are hard, so they give the drill a really hard time. But this drill's held up really well. It did all the spot welds in the rally car, did all the spot welds in the spare wheel well of this car, and it's still going strong. So center punch these 3 spot welds, pilot hole, and spot weld drill. Okay, so scratch that. This side is definitely worse than the other side. I've just uncovered another previous repair of the seat mount. It was so covered up with sound deadener I didn't notice it before. There's actually a big patch on the other side, and these, I think they're welds. I don't know, on this side. Yeah, a bit unfortunate. I think the best thing to do is just chop the whole lot out and remake this panel, which is going to be relatively interesting. Bit of curvature going on there to contend with, but I'm sure we can sort something out. It's obviously the seat mount, so I want it to be nice and secure. So I think we'll just chop the whole thing out and make up a new repair section and try and resurrect obviously the seat mount along the way. Where did I put my grinder? So I think we'll start with this one first, making a repair panel for this one first, because it's probably going to be the trickiest. I'd like to make it in one piece, so start off with a CAD template, and then we'll make a couple of, I think, wood formers, similar to what I did with that boot panel, to help bend that lip around, because it's around that curve. Shouldn't be too bad. So there we go. Plan. I've cut that curve out, the profile out, into some MDF. These are actually the inside bits from the boot template. Done on 2 pieces. On this piece I've rounded that edge over on the belt sander, carefully breathing in as much toxic MDF dust as possible. So the idea is to bit of metal in there, sandwich this over, and hammer over that little curve. So here we go. Well, that turned out much easier than I expected. Curve follows the line of the floor, all looks good. There's a bit of a mismatch down here, but I think what I'll do is once I've got all this side sort of tacked and welded in, I'll sort of do a bit of in situ panel beating to get those to line up. I think next to tackle is this little section. So what I might do is get the bead roller out, try and roll a profile similar to this one, and then cut that little section out as a repair panel. Any excuse to pull a bead roller out. But first, some lunch. Last repair section almost finished. Just want to press in the dibble for the drain plug, the fun bit. Whoa, nice dibble. As always, a little bit of panel beating to get it back into shape, but all good. With the driver's side floor nearing completion, one of the last bigger jobs to do is to replace the one of the seat mounts. Now I was thinking about just grinding this off and reusing this part, but it's got a fair bit of rust in the corners, so it's probably easier just to make a whole new bracket. The only bit of 2mm I've got, which this is 2mm steel, is this bit of RHS. So I'll utilise one of the corners as this bend here, and then build the rest of the mount. First off, I don't know if you can see the scribe lines there, I've scribed off this face, has centre punched a hole for the big centre bolt hole, and also 4 holes for these little corner reliefs to help the bends out. So I'll drill all those out and then come back and mark off the little legs and then cut it out and bend it. So after 10 years of owning this pedestal drill, I finally bought a keyless chuck. I wish I'd done that 10 years ago. We'll start off drilling a pilot hole. I've got a 3mm drill in there at the moment. It's running a little bit slow, but I can't be bothered changing the belts. It should be fine. And then I got a 4.5mm drill, and that looks like it's a good fit for the radius in there. So I'll drill those out, and then I'll probably drill this centre out with a step drill. WD-40 is not the best cutting fluid for steel, but it's so convenient. Better for aluminium. So it looks like we're after a 14mm hole. This is that bad boy there. I'll just mark that with a texter. Alright, got the drill as low as it can go. Might clamp this down. Mark up, start cutting. So there's our piece. Slight oversight with the grinder there. When I flipped the box section across to grind it this way, I forgot to mind how deep I was going, but that's fixed up and we shall never speak of it again. You can see how much the part is bowed when I cut it out of the RHS. Shows you how much residual stress is in this sort of steel section. I'll flatten that off with a hammer first, and then I've got this nicely shaped block of steel, which is exactly the right width to bend these 2 arms in, and to bend this one across I'll just throw in a few spaces, bend them all up, and then bend some returns back, and job done. Actually, I've changed my mind. I think it might be easier to bend the returns first and then bend these around. If I bend these bends first, it's going to be really hard to hold to bend the returns back. So I think I'll start with the returns first. While it's so easy to do, I'm just going to quickly run a tap through this M8 captive nut. Oh. Should make putting the seats in a little bit easier. I'll have to do the rest of them in the car. So there we go, one new original factory seat mount with captive nut. I know I said I was only going to do 2 spot welds on each, but I put a third one in. I mean, it is a seat mount, safety first. Driver's rear footwell complete. Well, I'm calling it complete anyway. Rust free, brand new seat mount, and it's all come up very nicely. So I've got to go to Sweden for work next week, and I'll be over there for a month. So this could be the last video on Bluey for a little while, and when I get back it might be time to start having a look at the rally car again, but I'm sure I will sneak a bit of time to remove some more rust. Till then, thanks for watching.